Hello, all you wonderful friends of the feather, and all you wonderful Blue Jays fans out there. It's Craig Bourne here with Jays Latest here to talk all things Toronto Blue Jays news. And today we got some Blue Jays adjacent news here that I'm curious to see what it might do for Major League Baseball because there's some oddities going on here with the Texas Rangers as we dive into things today. The last 24 hours have been very interesting for the Texas Rangers, and I'm just kind of still mulling it around because it just seems very odd to me. So, if you haven't heard, breaking news: the Texas Rangers have swapped with the New York Mets. Two great, talented baseball players. Marcus Semien is heading to the Queens, and in return, Brandon Nimmo is coming back to the Texas Rangers. Don't quite get it. I guess they were hoping to get more time out of Josh Smith at second base, their young talented prospect for the Rangers. I do obviously get this for the Mets because why not get a good second baseman if you're able to get one? And Marcus Semien is a bounce back candidate all day. A little rough season over the last 2 years, but he's had his moments. Obviously, the World Series champion. So there's things that go there. He's had an insanely good season with the Blue Jays that we still miss, by the way. But both players about the same WAR, a 2.9 for Nimmo, 3.3 last season for Mr. Marcus Semien. Gold Gloves for Semien, a lot more games played by Brandon Nimmo, and in every other category, Brandon Nimmo just destroys Marcus Semien. More home runs, more RBIs, more stolen bases, better batting average, all the above. So Gold Glove obviously being the big piece to that whole thing. So with everything going on and doing what they're doing, it is just what it is. Marcus Semien is moving into the right world here, where he is going to be obviously, hopefully, to compete for a blue, Queens wonderful fun that it is the World Series and the craziest payroll in Major League Baseball outside the Dodgers. The New York Mets have their guy. The one thing this does do is this actually creates an opening for the Mets to now go after Kyle Tucker. Trey and Brandon Nimmo moving that money, taking on more money with Marcus Semien is the other thing. Is it sounds like he's taking on all their money in New York. But to that point, Nimmo obviously goes back and becomes a very talented outfielder for somebody that needed an outfield assistance with the Rangers. Automatically, kind of pretty much got promoted to their leadoff guy. So Fox is projecting their lineup to be Brandon Nimmo, Wyatt Langford, Corey Seager, Jock Peterson, Jake Berger, Evan Carter, Josh Young, Josh Smith, and Kyle Higashioka. Higashioka has been a good catcher, but he's not a monster catcher by any reasons. They just lost Jonah Heim to non-tendering him and letting him go, not paying him. Now he's a major league free agent. You just lost in the last 24 hours, like I said, him and your power hitting right fielder, Adolis Garcia. So that might explain the non-tendering part of Adolis Garcia. Not pay him, bring in your new guy. This trade was probably already well in the works at that non-tender date this past Friday, and you just move on, right? So on that note, it still screams rebuild looking at this lineup to me. So what's going on next is my bigger question, and is Corey Seager going to be something that all of a sudden becomes a trade chip? You got a great shortstop in Corey Seager. He's locked up for many years. If he stays healthy, he's easily one of the best hitting shortstops in Major League Baseball, and obviously he's had a really rough year. So maybe selling him now wouldn't be the greatest thing. Maybe go into spring training and prove he's healthy, but there's a lot of teams looking for a shortstop. And the Major League Baseball free agency, the shortstop market starts and stops with Bo Bichette. So if you're looking for anybody that's a Major League Baseball shortstop, you're not getting that from the Major League free agency market. You're going to have to do something like this where you go for Corey Seager. So on that note, could this be something that the Blue Jays are knocking on the door of, because they have no idea if they're going to be able to keep Bo Bichette? So this is contingent plans on what it is. I want to keep Bo Bichette. I really do. But at some point, you might have to turn around and just do what just happened with the Mets here with buying Marcus Semien, basically. Yes, they did give Brandon Nimmo back, but Marcus Semien's contract is substantially more expensive than Brandon Nimmo. So, that being said, is this something the Blue Jays could do by taking on the pay of somebody like Corey Seager? and bringing him north of the border to allow him to play shortstop. Never know. That's the craziness of this time of year. So let's just talk that part out because that's where everything else is going. Because let's talk free agents. So, free agent, MLB.com writer Keegan Matheson is writing that he thinks that Ryan Helsley is soon to be a Blue Jay, or he wants him to be a Blue Jay. I'll give you 50-50 on which that actually truly is. But the former Mets reliever is looking for a new gig, and he would be a hell of a pairing in the bullpen with Jeff Hoffman. Helsley has been one of the better closers in baseball over the last few years. He had a rough outing this past year with the Mets, 4.5 ERA, but he was still striking people out. He suffered with a few more walks than usual, is kind of what it seemed like, struggling with the plate. And when you hop around and you move, it could be what it was. So all of a sudden, just, finally landing in New York and getting into the games he did get into just wasn't quite enough. So only 22 games last year. He had 36 the year before, where he produced a 1.1 WAR with 21 saves, and that is the lowest number he had in 3 years. And he actually led Major League Baseball, or at least the National League. Led the National League into 2024 when he was with the St. Louis Cardinals. Obviously, last year with the two teams, had a pretty good run with the Cardinals again, but then he did not quite have the same success in New York once he moved there. So it is what it is, but at the end of the day, he is a hell of an addition for this team to be able to put in the back of that bullpen and just continue to build that part up. We know we got what we have on the starting pitching mound. We got, Gossman, Barrios, Trey Savage, Eric Lauer, and insert another person here. Hopefully we get Chris Bassett back, some of those pieces like that, and we'll go from there. But this team isn't far off from being another team that runs right back to the playoffs and runs right back to the World Series. So they need to get this pitching thing figured out, a couple holes that they have. If you're able to bring in somebody like Corey Seager in lieu of being able to get Bo Bichette to re-sign back in Toronto, these are the kind of things that are going to be coming up over the next following weeks, and it is going to be very interesting to follow. Usually between, end of November and the holidays, it is full-on hot stove. We're going to be a lot of these talks, a lot of these rumors, a lot of these crazy things going on, but usually we don't get this many even trades like we've been getting in the past couple of weeks to be able to chat about. So make sure you tune in right here on Jay's Latest, and we'll talk all that out every morning, and you can just join in, hit those comment buttons, hit those subscribe buttons, and make sure you join us on my other podcast, Jaybird Watching, and we're going to be talking all things crazy about this trade deadline. We're going to possibly have Bob File or my friend The Heck back on from definitely not jaysfans.com. So make sure you also tune in for your 500th episode for us on Jaybird Watching, because we're going to have Travis Snyder and potentially another Toronto Blue Jays player guest. So make sure you stay tuned for that surprise, because we're going to have some fun with it. And that was Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern, and then our 500th episode special time, December 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Talk to you soon, and as always, let's go Blue Jays.